Thank you for joining us for another power-packed message from Dr. Myles Munroe, provided by Munroe Global Incorporated and MunroeGlobal.com. We transform followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. We hope that this message is a blessing to you as you advance your life and discover your purpose. Now, let's go into the message.
In this segment, I am going to be continuing on the subject of leaders in the kingdom, and we want to, in the day sessions, deal with attitudes, rediscovering the attitudes that create the leader inside of you, that separate you from followers. And we were attempting last night to lay a foundation because I wanted to make sure that everyone in this conference understand that all of us were created to be leaders, but not necessarily of people. And one of the challenges that we are facing in the world today is that our philosophy of leadership has been produced by Greeks and Romans rather than by Christ. When I went to college, which was a Christian college here in Tulsa, I was shocked to find out as a freshman that the first required reading that they put on my list of books was the writings of Plato. It was required reading. Every university does that. As a matter of fact, I doubt any one of you sitting in this room who graduated from university were not required to study the writings of Aristotle, Plato, or Socrates. And that's because our entire society, all of our universities, all of our philosophical understandings come from Greek philosophy. I sat there reading the books, the writings of these great philosophers, and discovered that their ideas was the foundation of our social, cultural, and political environment. For example, the Greeks were the ones who introduced the word demokrate. It was born in Greece. It became the idea or the ideology that created our present governing system. It's a Greek governing system. It's called democracy. It didn't come from the Bible. It came from Greece. The Romans conquered the Greeks. And the Romans became the most powerful government on earth. They built an army that was so strong that no country in the known world at that time could defend themselves against Rome. Romans were interesting people. The Greeks were philosophers, but the Romans were utilitarians. And what that means is the Greek talked about it, the Romans applied it. The Romans did not destroy the Greek philosophy. They kept it. Matter of fact, they protected the libraries of the Greeks, and the Greeks' philosophy was adopted by the Romans and created their leadership philosophy. There are 5 specific principles of Greek philosophy concerning leadership that were adopted by the Romans. It's important to understand that the Romans still exist today. When Rome fell apart, it produced what we call Europe. Europe is Rome disintegrated. Romans ruled from England to Africa. So all the nations in Europe, from England to Africa, live on the philosophical foundation of Greek philosophy, which was exported by the Romans, and the Romans educated, ruled, and they controlled the thinking of the world. In my book, Becoming a Leader, which I trust you will get a copy of, I did a couple of chapters in that book on Greek philosophy, and I called it the misconceptions of leadership. Misconceptions. Because the Greek philosophy, in my view, based in comparison to the Bible, was a misconception. For example, one of the things that the Greeks believed was that some people were born to lead and some were born to follow. So if you happen to be in the class that was born to follow, no matter how much education, degrees you achieve, they concluded you will always be a slave. That's Greek philosophy. The Romans adopted that. Secondly, the Greeks believed that leadership was a product of birth traits. A birth trait to a Greek thought was that certain people were born with certain traits that made them leaders. The rest of us who didn't have those traits were forever relegated to the masses of slaves. That was Greek philosophy. The Romans believed that. And that is why the Romans believed that certain people were born with certain traits, and they were the founders of what they call the Aryan race, which is a Roman term. Hitler adopted the same ideology. That's why he killed people. Because to him, they were not fully people. Well, keep in mind that Europe is Rome, disintegrated. So when the imperialist powers began to expand, even came to America, America was settled by Romans, disintegrated. That's why there was no problem to bring over slaves, because after all, they were not born with the traits. So people were then perceived as subhumans. The word sub means below. And so slavery was quite automatic and natural. After all, you were not born with the traits. And the traits of the Aryan race was blonde hair and blue eyes and a Roman nose. So if you didn't have fair skin, blue eyes, and blonde hair, you were automatically a subhuman. Therefore, you know there was no hope for me. And so for the American culture 200 years ago to perceive people from Africa as not fully human was natural. It was a Greek philosophy exported by the Romans, disintegrated into Europe. Am I clear? Jesus meant that philosophy in power when he came to earth 2,000 years ago. The Romans ruled the world when Jesus was born. Jesus Christ was therefore automatically considered a subhuman to a Roman. He was born under the law, the Bible says. Under the law. He was born in Palestine, a little town called Bethlehem. He grew up in Nazareth, a village with 1 street and 11 houses. So these people in Palestine were considered as subhumans. And that is why the Romans actually could control them, levy taxes on them, and also make them carry their shield and swords whenever they want to. After all, they were born to just serve the superior race. Jesus knew that the disciples were brought up in this conditioning. He knew that they were trained in that environment. So when he chose them, he knew that they were corrupted in their leadership perception. So one of the statements he made to them is one that hopefully we'll be able to discuss on our Wednesday. When they began to vie for leadership, they began to jockey for position. Because remember that Greek philosophy was that you were chosen by providence to be a leader. That was the Greek philosophy. In other words, the gods chose who would be leaders, and the gods chose who would be slaves. The Romans believed that. The Greeks believed that. And so Europe believes that. The disciples had a problem. They believed it too. And so one of the philosophies of Greek leadership perception also is that leadership is a result of charismatic personality. That's a Greek philosophy. Matter of fact, the word charisma actually means gifts of the gods, plural. Charisma is a Greek term. It meant those who were gifted by the gods. So if you were gifted by the gods, you were automatically in the leadership category. If you didn't have the gifts of the gods, then you were automatically a slave and subjugated. And that's where the development came for worshiping men. That was the height of humanism. As a matter of fact, the Greeks worshiped the human body as being the most highly valued product on the planet. They invented humanism, in a sense. The Romans adopted that. So the Romans also believed, therefore, that they were superior humans. They had the gifts of the gods. Matter of fact, Caesar believed that he was the son of gods. Many of you who've read history, you know that this concept of men being sons of gods was the concept of the pharaohs, and the Romans believed it. And so this idea that the God gave gifts to the earth through these men, and they were leaders by the providence of the gods, therefore you could not resist the leaders. If you rebelled against Caesar, if you rebelled against Pharaoh, you were rebelling against the gods. And so you were deserving of death. I want you to think about the leadership problems. Those philosophies still exist today. And that's why the first book they make you read in college is Greek philosophy, not the Bible. The Bible's concept of leadership is completely opposite to that. Matter of fact, Jesus made these statements when the disciples were trying to be Greeks. They were trying to fight for authority, fight for position. Matter of fact, two of them, James and John, were so adamant about it, they put their mother up to talk to him about it. And they asked their mother to ask him to place them in the highest position at his right and left in his kingdom. And he was a little bit shocked at their audacity. His response to them was, "Do you know what you're asking?" Very interesting question. I think everybody in this room would like to be promoted. All humans have a desire to be in charge. They don't tell you. They don't say it. That's why the 10 became angry, if you remember the story. They became angry not at the 2. Why? Not because they didn't want the positions. They were angry because they beat them to it. Every human being has a desire to be great. I repeat, every human being has a desire to be great. Many of them don't talk about it, but they think about it all day. You do. Because the desire for greatness is natural. Write that down, please. The desire for greatness is natural. Even a slave wants to be the master, but he doesn't talk about it. No one likes to be oppressed. No human. Even the oppressed don't want to be oppressed. We all have a desire to be great. We have a desire to be in charge. And what's amazing to me is that the desire for greatness was not rebuked by Jesus. As a matter of fact, his response to their passion for leadership was a positive. He did not rebuke them. James and John had the right attitude. They had the right desire. What they missed was the process. They wanted positions to be given to them. If Jesus Christ is Christ and he is God, then he should appoint them to be leaders. After all, the Romans believed the same thing. The gods gifted men to be leaders. So they were trying to get leadership by divine appointment. And Jesus asked them a question. He said, "Can you drink the cup I'm drinking?" You want to sit where I'm sitting. Can you drink the cup I have to drink? The word cup is an idiom in the Hebrew, and it means price. It means cost. Write that down, please. Cup means what? Cost. That's why in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he was talking about struggling with the price of the cross, he said, can you take this cup from me? And he was talking about, do I have to pay this price for them? He's talking about the cost of something. He said, every position of leadership has a cup with it. I'm not against you wanting to be great. I'm against you not wanting to drink your cup. The average human being wants a shortcut to greatness. And then he proceeded to do something very strange. He then began a seminar on leadership. Because he realized that the other 12 were angry, the other 2 were misguided, and everybody wanted power. They wanted to be great. And so he made the statement. He says, they said, yes, we can drink the cup. He said, you indeed will drink from my cup, but you won't drink my cup. You will taste death like me. And they did. James and John were killed in a very horrific way. He said, but to sit on my right and my left is not mine to give. Let me tell you something that's very important. You cannot pray for leadership. There is obviously a prayer that Jesus cannot answer. Let me repeat it again. He said, to sit on my right and my left is not mine to give. They were asking for what? Positions of leadership. You cannot pray for Jesus to give you a position of leadership. That's one prayer he said he cannot answer. I know you've been taught that Jesus can do anything. But according to Jesus, that's one thing he cannot do. He cannot give you the position of leadership that you are wanting. Very important. So no matter how you fast and pray for someone else's position, God can never give it to you. Why? He answers the next statement. He says, these positions belong to those for whom they have been prepared. That was his answer. In other words, there is a position for everybody in leadership. And no one can take your position. Hey, boy, say belong. Belong. Say it loud. Belong. Boy, what a beautiful word. Belong means no matter what they try to do, they can never be you. And they can never take your slot in God's leadership. Very important. He was destroying jealousy, competition, suspicion, fear, jockeying for position, scheming, the stuff that you do. And then he made this statement. I love it. And I'm going to be writing a book next year on this entire project. He said, he who would be great. In other words, if you want to be great, let me tell you how. He did not rebuke their desire for greatness. Matter of fact, he liked it. To the point where he even showed them how to get it. This is a shock. You got to think about this. See, most of you have been taught by Christianity that you shouldn't desire to be great. Because religion always gravitates against greatness, which is what bothers you in religion. That's why you fake it so well. You pretend to be humble, but you want to be great. And I've come to set you free from your false humility. It's okay to desire to be a leader. He loved their desire. Matter of fact, let me just give you all something that may shock you. Most of you feel that James and John had the wrong attitude. I disagree with you, because Jesus disagrees with you. If you study his relationship with his team, the three that he chose to be close to him, the three that he showed his secrets to, the three he kept with him and no one else was with him, the three he took to private environments, was the three who always spoke up, wanted power. He loved it. And he went as far as to show them how to get it. He said, if you want to be great, here's how. And he told them a secret. He said, if you want to be great, you must become the servant of all the others and become the slave of all the others. He says, because you know that the Romans, the heathens, the world, their leadership system is that they lord it over one another. And they make people benefactors. It shall not be so among you. He was separating the philosophy of the world's leadership concept from the kingdom leadership concept. He said, in the world, they lord it over one another. Everybody say lord it. Lord. Write the word Lord down, please. L-O-R-D. Now, here's the word means. It means owner. They like to treat people as if they are their property. Don't feel bad. It exists in the church. Some pastors are really Romans. I don't want you to visit that church down the street. I don't want you to attend that service over there. I don't want you to go to that seminar. That's a Lord. Peter learned the lesson from Jesus that day. Because if you read the book of 1 Peter, when he was talking about pastors, he said, pastors, do not lord it over God's flock. They are not your property. If they want to leave, they could leave. Uh-oh. If you are depressed by the departure of people from your organization, you are not a true leader. Because leadership has nothing to do with people. If you want to be great, he says, you don't focus on people. You focus on serving something to them. Greatness, therefore, is finding what you were born to serve the world. It's that simple. It's that difficult. I repeat, greatness, leadership is found when you discover what you were born to serve the world. It has nothing to do with title, nothing to do with dress, nothing to do with accolades. if you find what you were born to serve us, we'll look for you. I'm going to make a statement. You'll understand it next year. True leaders do not seek for followers. Followers seek true leaders. And so he rebuked the philosophy that day. He didn't rebuke the desire for greatness. He showed them how to become great. Now, we talked about something, and tonight I'm going to deal with it. Please don't miss tonight. We won't be as long as we were last night because I want to lay a foundation. But tonight, do not miss tonight. There's a difference. I want to give you a difference between two things, and it's found in the book. All right? I want to recommend this book to you because I cannot teach this in 3 days. It took me 30 years to write it. 30 years. But in this book, I talk about two concepts. Write them down. The leadership spirit, that's number one. And then the second concept is the spirit of leadership. The leadership spirit and the spirit of leadership. These are two different components. The leadership spirit is what we dealt with last night, and that is what you were born with. Every human being, 6.8 billion of us on planet Earth, were born with the leadership spirit. The problem is it's buried under Greek philosophy. Every time, for example, this church would call a leadership meeting, only certain people show up. The majority stay home because they believe that's not for me. That's Greek philosophy controlling them. Because they have the leadership spirit, but it's buried under corrupt thinking. And so what I have to do, and this book is about it. This book is not about the leadership spirit, even though it explains it in 2 chapters. It's about the spirit of leadership. The leadership spirit, let me simplify it, is the nature of God that you were born with, which is a spirit of dominion. You were created to rule, to dominate, to control, to manage, to lead. That's why you want to be in charge. You were created for that. The dominion desire is natural in every human. That's why you hate to owe people money. Because the lender is always in charge of the borrower. And you don't like to be oppressed by anybody. That's why you hate to have bills and debt. Am I right about this? Every human being hates to be indebted to another human. Why? Because it gravitates against their natural desire. That's why you get sick when you owe people money. You become depressed. Your blood pressure has problems. Stress kicks in. And now your body begins to deteriorate with all kinds of diseases, including cancer. Because you're not built to be oppressed. Yeah. That's why you want to be rich. Don't lie to me and don't be false humility. Every single one of you in this auditorium and watching this program, every single one of you want to be rich. Am I right? Say yes. Yes. But you don't want to be rich for the sake of wealth. That's right. No. Right. Your desire for wealth is so that you could control circumstances. I talk about it in this book. The desire for resources is to dominate your environment. You want to control where you live, what you eat, what you wear, where you fly, who you marry, what you put on, what you drive. You want to control how long you go out, when you come back, whether you work or not, don't feel like working. You just want to control life. Am I right about it? That's why you work so hard and you're still broke. Because you believe if I work hard enough, I'll eventually not have to work anymore. It's a desire for dominion. That's all it is. In my book on the kingdom, please read that book. Because that's a very important section in the book. I talk about the desire of all humans. The desire for power. We want power to control circumstances. Leadership desire for greatness is what I call the leadership spirit. What's lacking is the spirit of leadership. And so let me talk a little bit about what this book talks about, and that is the missing link to your leadership development. Why people don't become leaders. Say that with me. Why people don't become... See, the Romans have done a good job. They've made you accept second-class citizenship. You are afraid to desire greatness. And religion actually reinforces it. That's why I hate religion. Jesus didn't tell the disciples, you shouldn't desire greatness, James. That's rude. John, I'm ashamed of you. You want to be great. Why don't you be humble, lowly at my feet? Sinner saved by grace. He didn't do that. He said, hey guys, if you want to be great, here's how. Find your gift and serve it to the world. I'm talking something deep here. Servant leadership is not lowering yourself to other people's desires. Servant leadership is a lofty thing. It is serving yourself to the world. But first you got to discover yourself. Your gift is the key to your leadership. If you haven't found yourself yet, if you haven't discovered your true gift yet, you are still a follower. People have been looking for you all your life, and they cannot find you. They keep finding what society produced. People are really not looking for you. They are looking for your gift. Let me give you the hint. Please don't miss Wednesday. Let me give you a hint. Jesus ended the seminar with this statement. He said, he that would be great among you shall become the servant. And he who shall be first shall be the slave. He who shall be what? First. He who shall be what? First. Say it loud. Now, I did some research on this concept because I want to know what did he mean. And the word he used is amazing. Let me put it in English terms. He that would be the first one they look for. Is the one who is the slave. understand that. Let me give you an example. I got a phone call from T.D. Jakes a few weeks ago, and he said, Myles, I'm planning a cruise. And we had a meeting with my leaders. And we wanted someone to teach on leadership. And you were the first one that came to mind. Do they think of you first when they want something done? That's why you're not a leader yet. Because they can't identify you yet. They don't know the gift. Every one of you is great, but is buried under cultural graveyards. Let me ask you a question. Don't answer it. Just think about it. What are you known for? Here's how he ended the seminar. He says, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, read my lips, himself as a ransom. Leadership is finding yourself and then serving it to the world. What makes Tiger Woods a leader? He never looked for followers. Check him out. And when he was playing last month, by the thousands they went to that place and they kept walking up and down the green. Thousands. This little fella even ain't 30 years old yet. They keep walking up and down. Why? The guy is leading. I came from London yesterday, and the airport is pictures everywhere over London's airport. I went to South Africa, stepped into the Cape Town airport. His pictures all over Cape Town airport. He even ain't 30 yet. How old are you and they can't find you? He never sought leadership. He never took a course in leadership. He never got a course in MBA or master's in leadership or management. The guy simply found a gift. He discovered his gift. He refined his gift. And now he serves it to the world. He's a slave. How do I know? Read the books that they wrote about him. At 4 a.m. he's up on the course and you sleeping. You sleep too much. By the time you show up on the course to watch him, he already played a whole day's worth of golf. He's a slave. Only slaves get up at 4 to prepare for when the masters show up. That's too deep for you. You cannot be successful and have 8 hours of sleep. It's that simple. Michael Jordan never took a course in leadership. Never took a course in leadership management, trying to rule people. He never sought followers. Found a gift. Developed his gift. Read his book. He was up at 5 a.m. before school. High school. In a gym by himself, shooting 300 balls before he ate breakfast. He was sleeping. He's a slave. And you want to be great. You want to be great? Find something that you are a slave to. You don't want to know my story. 4 hours a night. That's it. I hate sunsets. Why? I got too much work to do.
All right now.
And you can't wait to go home. Most people are so committed to going home, they never go to their dreams. They're more concerned about getting home than getting ahead. Spirit of leadership. Spirit of leadership has to do with the attitude. The leadership spirit has to do with the nature. You have the nature, but you're missing the attitude. I'm going to deal with 10 attitudes this week, briefly. Matter of fact, each attitude is a chapter in the book. I'm going to talk about them in 2 days. That's how much you don't know about them. And these attitudes are what separates the follower from the leader, or leader from the follower. And your job is to cultivate those attitudes. You are sitting in the chair of a great person right now. The problem is you haven't connected the mindset with the nature. Jesus had to train those disciples to think differently. He had to destroy the Greek philosophy. He had to make them believe that they were as great as Caesar. That was a tough job. He kept saying things like, all things are possible if you believe. They didn't believe that before they met him. They had thought that they were subjugated to the Romans for the rest of their lives. And Christ says, a greater than Caesar is here. And he was living in a village. You see, it ain't where you are located, it's where you are mentally located. The attitude is what makes a difference. Let me give you some thoughts. You can pick up after this tomorrow. The difference between a leader and a follower is attitude. Write fast, please. The difference between a follower and a leader is what? Attitude. That's all. Attitude. I know this may sound simple, but it's not. I wasn't born the way I think right now. I wasn't born this way. I had to go through a mental conversion. I was born into a family of 11 kids in a small island where I still live. I was an island-minded boy. 7 miles wide, 20 miles long. That was my home. And I was born on the poor side of the island. So, I mean, I had all kinds of problems. And I was born under the oppression of an imperial power who told me that I was half-breed, human. I had some barriers to overcome. Well, I showed you last night some pictures of me giving advice to governments, training heads of states. How do you move from being a half-breed to training a president of a country? Something happened between my ears. What's holding you back right now from greatness is attitude. Attitude is more important than a degree from college. Nothing is worse than a PhD with a bad attitude. You don't succeed because you got education. Write this down. It is unique attitudes that distinguish leaders from followers. And these attitudes that a leader possesses produce certain behaviors that stretch the leader beyond the limitations of the norm. Leaders, because of the way they think, always live beyond the normal society. They never accept what you tell them. Leaders never believe your limitations. Because they have discovered some truth that makes them defy all convention. That's what makes them a leader. Matter of fact, the very concept of leading means you are leaving the present conditions behind. You cannot lead and maintain. I won't say it again. You cannot lead and maintain. Leading literally implies you are leaving something. That's why a true leader always breaks tradition. Because tradition is the graveyard of the hopeless. Let me suggest to you that what they taught you is not true. Everybody say attitude. Attitude. Write this down. Attitude is a product of belief. Say it. Attitude is a product of belief. You see, the key to changing your attitude is changing your belief. And that's tough. Because to change your belief will disrupt your life. We don't want to believe things that we don't believe. We love to believe the things we believe. And it's our belief that's holding us back. What you believe about yourself right now that you got from your family is wrong. The belief you got from your education is wrong. The belief that society told you about you is wrong. And I'm telling you, I know it's wrong because you would have been greater than you are now if you were not trapped by it. That's why God sent me. You cannot live beyond the limits of your beliefs. Say it with me. You cannot live beyond the limits of your belief. So you got to keep working on your belief system because it will produce your attitude. That's why I keep telling you to read books, listen to CDs. No, we're not trying to sell books. We're trying to change your belief. And you cannot change your belief until you get new information. Everybody say belief. Write the word belief down. Let me just deal with that for a second, then we'll have to wrap up. I'm just getting started, but we got to go. Everybody say belief. Okay, you got it down? Belief? You got it? Belief, okay. The word belief, I want you to write the word that Jesus used, okay? In the Greek, it's the word P-I-S-T-I-S. It's the word pistis. Now, the word pistis means belief. Okay, write the next word to it. It's the word that we translate faith. F-A-I-T-H. It's the same word. Faith. Now watch this. Everybody say belief. Belief. Everybody say faith. Faith. Everybody say pistis. Pistis. Boy, you're speaking Greek. Good. Okay. Read my lips. Faith cometh. Belief cometh. Pistis cometh by hearing information. Whatever you believe is what you heard. And what you heard may not be true. And that's the problem. What changed me was when I began to hear different information, like what I tried to share with you last night that you totally missed. And that is, you are God's. When I heard that, I was 15. I was reading the Bible at age 15. Read the whole Bible in 1 year as a 15-year-old. And when I read it, I said, that can't be true, because the preachers never told me that. I say that you are God's and you are children of the Most High. Psalm 82, verse 6. I said, my God, you put me in your class, and the British put me in subhuman class. Now I got to believe one or the other. 15 years old. And so the new information attacked my belief. And it won. And my attitude changed immediately. I went from a D student to an A student by one sentence. I was no longer under the tutelage of my teachers. Because they were from other countries. They didn't believe in me. You don't understand how deep belief is. See, you cannot live beyond the limitations of your belief. And so what's keeping you back from becoming the great leader you were born to be is that you don't believe the truth about you yet. Hey, boys, say attitude. Attitude. Write this down. Your life is what you think it should be. Skip lunch and use the money to buy this book. I dare you. Your mother don't know you. Your father doesn't know you. Your spouse don't know you. You don't know who you are. All they know about you is what you've shown them so far. That's all we know about you. And we haven't seen you yet. Your life is what you think it should be. So you got to keep changing your thinking about yourself. As a man thinketh, so is he. So we got to change your thinking. That's what these sessions are about. True leadership is not a technique, not a method, not a science. It's an attitude. You can take all the courses in the world in leadership and still be a follower. Companies spend billions of dollars every year and send people to all kinds of seminars, and they come back still following. Because you cannot really learn leadership. You have to discover leadership. You read all those positive thinking books and you're still broke. Am I right about it? You read all the 7 habits and all the 8 habits, all the 9 habits, and you still ain't got nothing going on. Because you see, it happens only when you have a connection with a belief system that changes your belief system. That's how deep we're dealing in this conference. What makes your attitude change? Your leadership attitude comes alive when you and I become aware of our true nature. And that's what happened to me. And I'm hoping it's going to happen to you before this conference is finished, that you would be introduced to yourself. Who are you? When I discovered who I really was, I was free from everybody else's opinion. Most of us are prisoners of people's opinions, including our families. You need deliverance. Some of you are so into deliverance. Deliverance from demons, deliverance from darkness. No, you need deliverance from people. Their opinions.
That's right.
The beliefs and convictions of a leader is what regulates the nature of their leadership. When their beliefs and convictions become lined up with God's beliefs and convictions of them, then suddenly a leader is born. My prayer is that in this series, the next few days, you will be encountering the truth about yourself that changes your mind about you. That's my hope. You are a great man, and no one knows it yet. You are a great woman, and no one knows you yet. And the world is waiting to eat from you. The Bible never says a man's education will make room for him in the world. Oh, I was so foolish. My mother and father said, go to school, son, get an education, so you can get a job and be successful. Now, listen to the instructions. Go to school, number one, get an education. Whose education? The oppressor's education. Then, get a job. That's exactly what the oppressor wants. You only are educated to get a job, never to own a business. I was talking to my son last week. My son just graduated from Oral Roberts University. He has this dream in his mind. You know, at age 9 and 10, I made my son and daughter write their vision down, their purpose down, what they want to be. 9 and 10 years old. Because they had to read our purpose and potential books in the house, you know, when they were kids. So by the time they were 12 and 13, they knew exactly what they wanted to do. So they wrote it down, and I have copies of it in my files. This is what they want to do. My son and daughter. You know, my son got this idea. He wants to build this thing. He wants to build like an amusement park in the Bahamas. There's none in the Bahamas. He said he sees it every night. He goes to sleep. He visits it and everything. So he came to school and took business. So we were chatting last week because he's going to do his MBA beginning a couple of weeks. He can be one of the youngest MBA students in the school. He's only 20. And I said, what are you going to do? I said, you know, you need to get a job and get some experience. He said, no. He said, hey, coming home, I started my business.
All right now.
He bypassed job. Just went straight to business. His thinking is beautiful. Which means if he ever gets a job, it'll always be temporary. Write this down. Don't look for employment. Seek deployment. Deploy yourself. Release your true self. All employment should lead to deployment. You're just glad to have a job. What a way to die. You live for retirement. You pray for pension. What a depressing life. I gotta go. But I'm glad you came today. I gotta stop. Because I don't want to keep you away from your jobs. So I'm going to pray for you to go back to your employment. Hopefully by Wednesday, you'll be thinking about what? Deployment. Praise God.
Thank you once again for listening to this message, as we hope that it has been a blessing to you. Our goal is to show you new paths and opportunities so that you can discover your purpose. It is your love, support, and partnership that makes Munroe Global possible. Please visit us online at www.munroeglobal.com for more product, partnership, or to join us at one of our live events around the world.
I see their faces in the dark, feel locked in stumble to my door with barely half their lives. And as I mend them up again, I hide the scars they leave. But deep inside, there's nowhere left for me to truly grieve. Feel so empty, dead inside, though I give all I can. Each gentle touch, each whispered word, each fleeting trembling hand. The pain I carry's mine alone. No self can reach that deep. I'm haunted by the lives I've saved, the ones I couldn't keep. Oh God, why does it hurt so bad? Why does it linger on? The wounds no one else can see, the hope so quickly gone. I feel the weight of every life that slips through my embrace. Like the wound I tend, I'll never mend, my soul will not erase.